This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I feel like, Adam, I'm going to ruin you.
Please do.
I'm fuming over here right now. Pissed.
All right, welcome into the practice squad, and I'm very excited about this episode. Stroz, you texted me last night. It's funny because we didn't have anything put together. Like, we were very not sure how today was going to look. We had the middle segment planned. We teased it last week. Stroz's girlfriend, Alyssa, is going to come on and rank our top 5 segments of all time. We both already know them. I have some thoughts. Have you had some thoughts about them as well? Or
yeah, a few, and we'll get into it when she comes on. But
so we'll do that.
Definitely not my not my thought as far as the top 5.
There were some that I'll say this. At least one of them really surprised me, and then I listened to the clip and went, "Nah, this was pretty good." Mm-hmm. So we'll get to that. Coming up at the end of the show, this is my third Lions regime I've seen hired. Stroz, it's your 76th, by the way, you act on the show at time. Where does this one rank among your faith going into year one compared to all the other ones? So for me, again, that's the Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia era. That's the Jim Schwartz, Martin Mayhew era, and then now the Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell era. First, of course, we got to fight about Stafford. I don't think this one will be. I mean, I don't know. You can never predict with this show. I don't think this one will be as violent as our most recent one. But Stroz, you say for the first time in 12 years, Matthew Stafford is not a robot.
For me, he feels like he's a human. And I'm so frustrated by this. I sent you a message earlier in the day, and I just kind of wanted to gauge the water, I guess, because we feel about Matt Stafford. Sometimes I feel like we are in such lockstep, and then other times I feel like we are miles apart from each other. And for the first time ever in the 12 years that he was in Detroit, and now he's leaving, I feel like he is not guarded. I feel like he is not a robot. I feel like he is not a company man, which makes sense because he is leaving the Detroit Lions. For the first time, he actually feels like a person that resonates with the soul of Detroit, with the average Joe in Detroit. And I just feel like now, in these different brief media clips and these little insights that you're getting, because he's now talking to people and he's letting people in, he seems like he's a regular guy. And I think a lot of it, I've been doing a lot of thinking about it throughout the day since I messaged you. I think a lot of it is because when you do get to see him and you do get the little bit of tidbits, the little bit of clips of him, it's usually after a pretty brutal loss, or it's after he's got his butt kicked in a game. You know, I mean, he's standing up there at the podium and he's got to
and
fend
you
off
want to
the
see
media.
it hurt him.
I don't necessarily want to see it hurt him, but I just want to know that you're a guy. Like, show me a little something. Like, be angry. Show me some emotion. Show me something. And what I've gotten the last couple days is there's some depth there. There's an actual person there with a person.
Human being. That's what happened.
Right. There's personality. I've just never gotten that personality from him.
For a quick second, because you were saying sometimes we're in lockstep, sometimes we couldn't be further apart. General rule of thumb, when you're complaining about something stupid, we're probably in different spots. I probably don't agree with you in those cases.
Why does it have to be stupid? Is it stupid because you don't agree with it? Or is it stupid because you just don't see my point of view? Why is it stupid?
No. So I understand where you're coming from. I think it's a little exaggerated, but I understand where you're coming from. He's not ever been one to let you in on his personal life. He's not been one to let you in.
We do sports talk. Everything is exaggerated. It is usually polar ends of the spectrum. And it kind of has to be for it to be good.
I guess, yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. But like, so here's... I don't know how to explain this.
I feel like I befuddled you a little bit.
No. For the average person, this opinion, if in order for you to exaggerate it, you would be lying. Like you would not be authentic. That's not the case with you. I know this is real for you, but for the average person to be upset that Stafford's normally a robot, to me, it's silly. Like it's exaggerating to the point of silliness. I'm upset
because I feel like there was a guy there that I really got on board with. No. Like, listen to me. No, listen to me. I feel like there's a guy there that I could have really got on board with and could have been my ride or die. You know how he's your ride or die? Like last week after the show, you sent me these different messages about how you felt super connected to him, and you proved it, right? We talked about that last week, and then you proved it to me through these messages that went back and forth through text messages.
I feel like the only message I sent you was a picture of me with him in high school.
There was a couple. It was a great picture, by the way. Anyways.
Which, by the way, I realized
he's your ride or die.
Okay. I have more than one picture with him. I went to a Stafford meet and greet in, let's say like 2015, 2016. I have a picture like grown-up Brendan shaking hands with Matt Stafford.
So, like, he's your ride or die. He's never been my ride or die guy. Like, I've never, ever, like, he's just been a guy playing the position for me, right? And that's because I've never gotten that personality from, like, Baker Mayfield, I think, is a prime example. Baker Mayfield is nothing but personality. Aaron Rodgers gives you that personality. Did you not love Tom Brady stumbling off the boat the other day? Yes, it's great because it's personality. And Tom Brady's one of the most buttoned up guys in the NFL, but there's some personality there. There's some personality there.
Brady was one of the most buttoned up guys. I think the last few years, and not just this year, he's kind of started to loosen up a little bit.
But it's personality that draws you in.
So
it makes you connect with the guy. Matt Stafford has never in 12 years giving anybody that. He stands up at the podium and it's this, that. This is what we're doing.
Shut the hell up. That's so stupid. Oh, he was Stroz? Listen to every other quarterback in the damn league. They all say and like, and they all say those things. Here's the thing. I understand wanting more of that from any player. Like, I'm not blaming you for wanting that. Like, all of us enjoy when we can know the player and the way they think. Like, we want to know those things. I get that. But when you were texting me about it, like, it's pissing you off that we're now seeing that. That's not who he is, and that's okay. We never saw that stuff from Calvin Johnson either. Like, I don't feel owed that. And I understand why the guy who hadn't done it for 12 years is doing it now. Because this is a huge moment in his life. Like, this is huge for him. He's moving on from the place. He's 33 years old. He spent 12 years in Detroit. His entire adult life in Detroit. So I understand why this guy who hasn't wanted to open up to us, because it's not who he is, feels the desire to do it now. And it doesn't take anything away from any of the 12 years. It doesn't change anything. I'm sure when he goes to LA, he's probably going to be reserved too, because that's who he is, and that's okay.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It'll be interesting if he does open up more, if he's in LA, if he feels more comfortable. Here's the thing. There is a relationship there with him and Sean McVay, right? Like
has he said that?
Yeah, there's been different articles that have come out regarding this. Like there is, like, it goes back to when they were in Texas together. Like, they have different connections through different friends. So there is a relationship there. I wonder if going to LA, playing for Sean McVay, if it helps him open up a little bit, if it helps him feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more insulated. Now, he's refused to sign an extension. He's basically come out and said, hey, I'm not signing anything until after we kind of see how the season plays out, and we'll kind of look, and it's going to be what's best for me, because he wants to win a Super Bowl. That's what he wants. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But I do wonder if he opens up a little bit, if he does maybe take down a few walls and let some people in, because I think I can make the argument that was part of the biggest hindrance with him in connecting with the Detroit fan base. Like, he connected with you, so you see it different. But like the other majority,
I don't think he had an issue connecting with the Lions fan base. I think that's bullshit.
I know. I think that was a huge chasm between him and the fan base.
For a long period of time, he was absolutely loved by the majority of the fan base. As time went on and he didn't win, that changed. And it's not because after 4, 5, 6, 7 years, he didn't open up and we're like, man, it's taken too long. It's because some people only care about whether or not he won a playoff game. And I promise you, Stroz, if he was winning playoff games, people wouldn't say, oh, I don't connect to Matthew Stafford. I don't feel like I know him as a person. No. The reason you don't connect to Matt Stafford is because he didn't win playoff games. And I think to me, that's not the way it works. But like, I can understand that. I'm not blaming you for not connecting to him. I just think it's bullshit to suggest that it made the difference of whether or not you were a Matthew Stafford fan.
I don't understand why you don't understand that. Like, you like certain people because of their personality. You might have liked
him, but you would have wanted him gone. It would not have changed whether or not you wanted him here.
I think everybody can understand. Like, so here's the thing. At this point in his career, you were okay with seeing him go. He's still your guy, but you were okay with seeing him go.
So, then what difference does it make? Because you still weren't going to be a fan of him. You might be a fan of him as a person, but if you wanted him gone, what difference does it make?
What I'm telling you is,
I don't understand.
If he would have demonstrated some of this personality, people like me would have came around maybe sooner. Maybe it would have been harder for us to see him go because he could walk out the door right now. But I think I speak for at least 50% of this fan base. Yeah, well, I think you speak for the other 50%.
We were going to talk about Tom Brady too. Just because he's won championships doesn't mean he's fucking the best of all time. It's stupid.
Yeah, you're right. You're stupid.
You would have liked Matt Stafford better. I don't disagree with that. You would have liked him as a person better. But I just don't understand why that matters. What would it have changed? He still wouldn't have won playoff games.
It wouldn't have changed anything, but I think it's frustrating to now take a step back and look at it and be like, he has a personality. He could have brought, I just feel like
Do you feel like he owes you that personality?
I feel like I was gypped.
So you feel like he owes you that personality?
Yeah. I feel like that as a Detroit Lions fan, you didn't get to see this side of him. And I think that sucks for Matt Stafford. I think it sucks for Detroit Lions fans. I think it sucks because you didn't get to have that interaction with him.
It's okay to wish you got more. It's okay to wish you saw that, but to actually get mad about it, which is what you had told me, to actually get mad about it is ridiculous. He doesn't owe you a personality. He owes you honestly, he owes you nothing. He
doesn't owe you anything
to play the best football he can, which he did. And the last point I want to make, and then we can move on as far as I'm concerned, is if your problem was that Matt Stafford didn't open up and show you his feelings through the way he spoke, then you're not an action person. You need the words. And I'm not even saying that's a criticism, but to suggest that we didn't have any idea who Matt Stafford was as a person when it comes to football, comes to his attitude about wanting to win, when it comes to his attitude about struggling through tough times in Detroit, it was never a debate. You knew what kind of a person he was when it came to football when he threw a game-winning touchdown his rookie season against the Browns with a separated shoulder. You knew that when you found out he played through a season with a broken back. You knew that when he didn't tell his teammates. You knew
he was a tough SOB. He was a tough SOB.
See, that's the thing. That's where I don't know if you think I'm crazy here, but I refuse to believe somebody does that just because they're tough. To me, that's somebody who that's the ultimate I need to win guy. And I've always believed that about Matt Stafford. And I believe that's why he wants to leave. He wanted to do it here because he wanted to do something special. And he didn't get to, so now he's going to leave and try and get something to win. And I didn't need his words to tell me that. The actions he made on the field told me that.
See, that's funny because some of the biggest criticisms from some of the guys that he played with was that
yeah, but that's bullshit because there are people on both sides of that.
You're right, there is, but it's one of those things where he just didn't demonstrate it enough. I don't know. I just feel like I didn't get enough personality from him, and now when he's leaving, it's almost like he takes down this wall, opens up the door and says, "Hey, come on in, guys. I'll show you." And he's gone tomorrow. So really, truly, it's a bunch of consternation, and it's getting upset over spilled milk.
What? I refuse to believe the average member of our audience knows what that word means. Explain it.
Look it up. Look it up. Get a dictionary. Get a thesaurus.
No. Pause. Time out. What does that word mean? Do you not know what that word means?
No, I do. I use it often in my vocabulary. It's basically what it means is it's frustration and it's aggravation over something that you really can't change or that you can't fix. So look it up.
I believe you. I'm not calling you a liar. I don't think we've ever had a word used on our podcast less common than I don't even know how to say it. Consternation? Is that constipation?
No, it's completely different. You might have some consternation with your constipation, though.
Yeah, it feels like the words are similar. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail you there. I just was very thrown off by your word choice.
There is some frustration there, I think, for a large majority of Detroit fans. And I think now seeing this man who was here for 12 years, you basically got to watch him grow up. And everybody goes back to that moment with the Browns, right? You've seen how tough he was. You find out he plays with a broken back, right? But there's more to him. There's more depth to him. And you didn't get any of that. You got none of that. He was basically a kiddie pool when in actuality, this man was an Olympic-sized swimming pool that was 10 foot deep. You got none of that.
Who would have ever thought that Matthew Stafford had feelings? That's the craziest thing to come out of 2021. Matthew Stafford has feelings. And who saw that coming?
I hate when you do that. I hate when
Do what?
when you minimize it
and point out how stupid your opinions are.
No, it's not. I don't think it's a stupid opinion.
It's fair to feel sad. I don't have a problem with.
I don't even feel sad. I'm frustrated that I didn't get to see this side of this man. Right? Like he's like, I'm not saying that he's like, oh, he's an actual person. Like,
that's
like,
how it sounds. That's
like,
what I hear.
Like there is more to him, and like he never lets you in. Like he did that. It wasn't anybody else. It was him. And now on his way out the door, he's like, "Hey guys, let's have a campfire chat here."
Coming up later on in the show, Stroz is going to tell us which Lions regime he felt the closest friendships with. But first, a special guest. I can't believe you didn't react to that. A special guest. We're going to bring on Stroz's girlfriend, Alyssa, to help us rank our best segments of all time. I've been looking forward to this segment since we first thought of the idea. We're bringing on Stroz's girlfriend, Alyssa, to help us rank our favorite, or her favorite, I guess, segments, moments in the show's history. And Alyssa, first of all, welcome. Stroz had a question he wanted to start off with for you.
Oh, great.
It wasn't a question. Well, I guess maybe it is a question.
You wanted me to ask it, but I'm not going to torture her.
How nervous are you to do this right now? How uncomfortable are you?
So I've gotten out of doing this for the last 3 months is how nervous I am. And now I had hernia surgery 4 weeks ago. So I'm stuck at home and my car's in the shop. So I couldn't even make up an excuse. He knows I'm home with nothing else to do. So here we are.
For the record, you don't sound that nervous. So it's going to work out just fine. I do have to tell you the reason I wanted to do this. I tell every friend I have that they don't have to listen to anything I do. Mm-hmm. I've over the last 4 years, Stroz, we've done 50 episodes. I've probably done 200 podcasts on top of working in radio. I tell all my friends they don't have to listen to anything I do. And you're telling me she listens to every single episode. How could we not take advantage of that?
Well, I mean, that's kind of how I felt about it too. I thought that was great. When you were like, hey, she needs to tell us what her favorite episodes are, her favorite moments. We should kind of clarify, not maybe her favorite episodes, more favorite moments over the last, what episode is this? 57, 58? I've got it marked on. Is it 58? So the previous 57 episodes, and she's gone back and she's listened to everything.
That's the thing. You've listened to some of them twice, right?
Yeah. So I really have listened to every single one of them. But when you asked me to do this, a couple of things definitely popped in my mind that I wanted to talk about. But I wanted to go back and re-listen to them just to make sure. But I have listened to every single episode now twice.
I think maybe we start there. So what did you want to talk to us about?
That's fair.
No, I mean there's a couple of things I feel like Adam, I'm gonna ruin you.
Please do.
Not in a bad not even in a bad way. That specifically, I feel too came up when I was re-listening to the first set before he had moved, and he just sounds like such a dick, such a scumbag, womanizer, terrible human for real. I was re-listening to it and I was like, holy shit. He's not like that in real life, y'all. He's not. He's actually just a really good dude and a teddy bear.
So I need to tell you, the number one on this list, and we'll get into it, is when I saw that, I was like, I don't know if that was as good as she thinks it is. And I listened back, and I miss the asshole Stroz. How do I get him back? Because that segment was great.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially, and I think it shows, too, because he came back from an all-inclusive trip in Mexico, which we'll also talk about with good stories. So...
All right, let's get into the top five first.
Do you want to go 5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
Oh yeah, we're gonna go 5 to 1 for sure.
Okay, that's how I thought we were gonna do this.
For last.
That's how I thought we were gonna do this.
Starting out in 5th place, episode 41. So that puts us. That was 17 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I'm crazy, uncomfortable. Right? What?
I was sitting there too because he was asking segment and episode numbers, and I was like, that felt like forever ago. I had to go back through on YouTube and go and reread some of the explanations on there because I wasn't sure what episode it was when I was re-listening to it. So I had to go. I think I started at episode 25 and read all of what everything was about so that I could figure out that it was episode 41.
All right. So coming in 5th place, episode 41, the nostalgia draft. Here's a short clip of that.
I know that this period of 6-7 months, whatever you want to look at, has been tough for a lot of people. And I think that that's a time when you really look back on nostalgia. So I thought this would be fun. And what we're going to do is a all nostalgia team. We will do it in draft format just to be safe. Does anyone care about the order?
I don't mind.
Paul go first since he's a guest.
Yeah, for sure.
Then Stroz can go, and then I'll go. We're all going to pick 3 things. And our pool is basically anything. I don't care if the street you grew up on is what is part of your all nostalgia team. Everything is in play. I just thought it'd be fun. And like I said, after this, I have some concerns about Matthew Stafford. I want to get to them, but let's have some fun first. I think this is a great segment to be involved in on social media. I already put the tweet out there at Brendan Riley _ at Adam R. Stroz. Your all nostalgia team, top 3 things. Paul, we'll let you go first.
All right. So the first one is definitely the easiest one for me. I'm glad I got to go first because I actually thought Stroz might take this for me if he got to go before me. But for me, the 2001-2002 Detroit Red Wings. That team was the first team I remember watching all the time. I remember them adding all these legends. Brett Hull being added to the team. Luke Robitaille being there. Hasek was there. This is a team that really, I fully watched them. I was 8 years old and I'm like, I'm in love with this team, and I watched them win a cup, and it was just a bunch of old men who were just so good. They were so good, and they were so old.
I'm going to tell you something about that team that's probably going to blow you both away. I cried when they won the Stanley Cup.
Were you getting laid at that time?
Yeah, so this was one of my favorite episodes, I think, just because the idea was really cool, and it was very different, which is B's favorite word to describe every episode. It was really different than what always happens. I feel like it was cool to have Paulie on the show. I remember asking Adam if Paulie does that a lot. And he was like, no. And I was like, he was really good. But it was cool, too, because you guys are a little bit different age groups. So listening and seeing, like, everybody's most nostalgic, like, 3 moments. Like, Adam's, I've never been to the Pontiac Silverdome, ever.
Me neither.
Unfortunately, like, I had a grandparent. I know Paulie's was like I've never played Pokemon. Like, all of these things, I was like, oh my God, like, they're such important parts of everybody's lives, and I didn't really take part in any of those. So it was kind of cool to see.
The timing of it was so cool too, because, like, I mean, I'm surprised it was that long ago now, but you're, in the middle of the pandemic and lots of people not going out and living their normal lives the same way. So I remember driving home and like a song came on and I was just like, oh my God, we need to just talk about this. Were there any things that came to your mind that would have been on your list of, all nostalgia draft?
Well, it was kind of cool because when Paulie was bringing up the 2001-2002 Red Wings, I remember memories from those years specifically. At least I'm hoping this. My brother fell asleep when they won the Stanley Cup, and it was after. This is how old Adam is. It was after one of my elementary school because I was only 10. It was after.
That doesn't make you look like a creep, huh?
I was in 2nd grade, Stroz.
Yeah.
I remember crying after they won that. I think I mentioned that on this episode.
Yeah, I came home from an ice cream social in elementary school. And we were watching it in one of my childhood homes, and my brother fell asleep, and he just woke up right at the end of it. And that was one of the moments that I'll always remember. And then the next year, it was Grandparents' Day. So he had a huge brunch, and my brother was puking during the whole game. And he's 2 years older than me. So I think he was in 5th grade and I was in 3rd or something. And so when he brought that up, I was like, oh my God, because I have distinct and vivid memories from those years for the Wings too.
That's funny. I was in college and doing college things.
All right. Well, moving on to number 4. And I got to say, looking at this list, it appears that she thinks we hit our stride around episode 30.
I was looking at that and I was like, oh, I feel like that's not good.
Whatever felt right to you. Episode 46. I love the title of this one. Mm-hmm. Although I have a gripe with you, Stroz. I remember a moment in this episode that I thought was perfect for it, and you didn't take the right part. But so episode 46, 4th place, B is wholesome.
Compared to me?
I'm a child, but I'm like a 100-year-old child.
So I'm 27. I've never felt like an adult. And I think people in their early 20s kind of go through a phase where that is weird to them. But to be honest, I think I've really embraced that. However, we have a problem. I'm realizing that at 27 years old, I'm starting to feel more and more like an adult, and I don't want to. I've embraced to being a child. I think that there is there's a joy to it. There's a thrill to it that I want to keep at 27. Maybe
so
that's
wait,
why
how did you realize this about yourself? Like, walk me through this. Like, all of a sudden, you just have this revelation.
And I'm obviously going to share it, but so no particular reason. I hopped back on Tinder. It's a very on and off thing for me.
So hold on, I want to pause here.
Okay.
So you hop back on Tinder. So how's it been?
I mean, I literally just hopped back on Tinder. I mean, like, I got my first match last night, and I was going to message her after the podcast.
Was she hot?
I mean, it's Tinder. Like, everybody looks better on Tinder than they do in real life. I've met 5 or 6 girls from these apps. I would say one of them was far more attractive than her pictures. Ooh. One of them was about equal, and the other 4 or 5 were, like, significantly less attractive.
This is the difference between me and you. So there's your moderately bad. Like, I'm going to go book a trip, and I've got some medical debt that I've got to take care of, but we're going to put that on the back burner. I'm over there like, yeah, so let's go to the strip club tonight with all the money I have in my bank account. And as I'm slipping the girl $1 in her G-string, I'm going to slip a finger someplace, too, and see if she likes it.
Have you done that?
What?
Gone to the strip club with all the money in your bank account?
Yes.
No way.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
That is a lot.
Not a good idea. I mean, I haven't done it recently. Younger me, yes. So, like, again, I've grown up a little bit, but, you know, I still like going to the titty bar. It's great. It's a good time. I'm trying to convince my girlfriend to go. She says no. She says she's not really into those things. And the thing is, her brother's girlfriend is really into those things. And I'm like, see, we'll make it a whole family affair. It'd be great.
You know, Houston is known as one of the best cities in America for strip clubs.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Have you gone to any down there?
No, I've never been to a strip club.
Oh, what? You've never been to a strip club either?
No.
Bro.
I'm being completely honest here. It doesn't super appeal to me.
Oh. Like, you don't like seeing half-naked chicks with a decent-sized rack shaking them for $1?
That you cut in the wrong part.
Was it me finger banging chicks?
Oh, no, that part's in it.
Oh, no. It was, you probably cut it just before, where I was like, you asked if I wanted titties in my face, and I was like, only if they're consensual titties or something like that. Like, she's doing it for the money. It's not the same. And you didn't keep that part. But
That's so funny.
I don't know how you're going to cut this all, Stroz, because this is a very informal recording going on right now. But Alyssa, you tell us why you like this segment.
I just think it's so funny because whenever we listen to you guys, your podcast, you can obviously see like how different you guys are. But this was one of those episodes that you can just see how different you guys are. So like your moderately bad behavior is you.
Moderately bad decisions.
Sorry.
That's what she's referring to. It's in my Tinder bio. I was a fan of moderately bad decisions. This is the episode where I realized I'm not necessarily sure I do anymore.
No, so your moderately bad decision was you going to Seattle kind of on a whim because you weren't super financially stable enough to go.
Remotely financially stable.
Okay, compared to Adam's moderate, this is like the key word here, moderately poor decision is him taking his whole bank account to a strip club, putting dollar bills in a girl's G-string, and possibly slipping fingers in places that they're not sure they really want them to go.
How did you ever luck up with this guy? Like, you've got a crown jewel right here, babe.
This was episode 46. She says you're cleaner now.
I know. Well, but so that story, I guess, I mean, it's from before. That story of him doing that was from however many years ago. So I haven't seen that behavior, but I've also never been to a strip club with him, or period, as he mentioned in that show as well.
Let's not get this twisted. We've not been to a strip club in a minute.
I know, he hasn't been in a long time. But that's the other thing, too. He always tries to get me to go, and I'm like, I just don't feel like I want to do that. And he always questions why. And I was like, this is literally why. Because like, we don't need to see you fingering random strippers at the strip club. I think we're good on that.
All right, well, let's go to a more recent story, although a more older episode. Episode 39, the Mexico trip. Here's a clip.
That was scary as shit. It was not good.
Stroz, if that would have happened this time, you wouldn't. I'm not sure you'd have been ready to tell it.
I don't know, man. Like, if it would have happened this time, like, I've already been through some things.
You'd have been like, I was looking forward to it.
At this
This
point,
is the moment I was waiting for.
at this point, I've been through some things. At that time, I had not been through nearly as much shit. So, like, now I feel like I'm ready for it. Like, I was ready for my girlfriend to get sex trafficked, and I was ready to meet a cartel member and for them to hold a gun to my head and be like, "Hey."
She listens to our shows, right?
She does, yeah. Like, I talked about her possibly getting sold into sex most of the trip, and she was like, "Well, I hope that doesn't happen." I was like, "Me neither." Like, that's mine. I like that. Let's not have that getting tossed around by other dudes, and maybe I won't ever see you again. But I was like, let's hope I don't have to.
Good for the podcast, is what
it would have been great for the podcast. Like, could you imagine that? Oh my God!
I feel like we'd be told we're not allowed to talk about that. You would have been dealing with authorities in Mexico, and they would have told you to keep quiet. They would have shut down our whole damn podcast.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I didn't even run into any crazy federales. The federales are nuts. Like, all they really want is however much money you got in your wallet. I didn't even run into any of those crazy bastards. Like, it was like just the most grown-up lame vacation you could ever go on. I was so sad, man.
All right, as we wrap this up and move on to how you're watching the Lions currently, if you're rooting for them or not, based on...
By the way, I had sex on everything, just FYI. I was picking up the mantle and I was carrying it for you while I was in mid-thrust at one point. I was like, this is for B. I had sex on everything. There was a table. There was a chair in there. I had sex on that. Look, I brought the baby oil. The one thing I didn't have sex on or in, I did not have sex in this giant shower they had, and I was very upset about that.
I expect nothing less from you. So the only thing I want
somebody's got to get laid on this show.
The only thing I want to ask, and I feel like...
Okay, this one was incredible to me in the moment and listening back.
Okay.
The adamacy to him wanting something to happen to you made me uncomfortable.
Thank you. Yes, I'm the girlfriend that he wants to get sold into sex trafficking just so that he can have a good story.
I just want a story.
My God.
You guys know,
I just want a good story.
And you, if I remember correctly, that was like part of, like, it was a theme to the trip. Like, he routinely commented on it, didn't he?
Yes, and we talked about it before we left. We talked about it when we got back. We talked about it while we were there. Yes.
How do you put up with that? Like, honestly.
I mean, usually, this is going to make me sound terrible. Usually it's just kind of funny. I mean, I know it's not really serious, like, if anything happened to me, but, like, so I just kind of laugh it off. I think it's funny. But that trip, too, it's funny how much I learn, I feel like, about Adam during your podcast as well. Because, like, when I asked him what he thought of the trip, I mean, he said all good things. But then he comes on the podcast, and what I think is relaxing, he apparently thinks is lame. Anything that I think is good. He came on the podcast and was like, I mean, it was just a sad trip. Like, I was just sad looking back. It was just sad. Like, what? I didn't know this was a sad trip. I mean, I had a good time. So it was funny listening back and hearing the things that he says. And I was like, okay, well, we know changes, I guess, to make next time. Go ahead.
The one thing I remember from this episode that's not in the clip is the only eventful thing he could tell me about was somebody pissing themselves.
Yeah, on the chair, repeatedly, though.
Only eventful thing that he could tell me about.
That, and then there was this lady that was probably 60, and maybe 10% of her body was real. The rest of it she had work on.
I remember that as well.
That's about it.
She was like a Kardashian twin, just straight up made out of plastic.
Is that what you were waiting to bring up, Stroz? Because you were clearly waiting to say something.
No, I don't know where I was going with all of it. I had something I wanted to add to it.
we met friends the last day, and then Adam and I were the A's, and they were the J's. And B, you were like, that's the cutest, most normal thing I've ever heard you say.
Yeah, it's the most not Stroz thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, coming up number 2. We all know this one, episode 31, B loves Taco Bell.
This whole segment is going to sound like a Taco Bell advertisement. It's not. I would be happy for it to be. I don't know if there's a single place that would make more sense for me to endorse than Taco Bell, but this is just me talking about food I enjoy because I wanted to talk about food today. All right. You should pull up the menu before we do this, Stroz.
I'm actually in the middle of doing it right now.
Okay. So the grilled cheese burrito is the number one thing right now that I'm dying for. And it's really just all it is a regular ass burrito with cheese grilled on top. So it's beef, rice, sour cream. Like, I don't know if they're Fritos or if they're nacho chips. They like to mix in both. I'm looking at the picture. Red strips is what they call them. Nacho cheese sauce and a 3-cheese blend. So, I didn't even notice this. And it has their Chipotle sauce, which if you're a Taco Bell fan, you know what? No, I'm not 100% sure what else it's on. But dude, it's a good burrito already. I'm a cheese guy. You add an extra layer of cheese on top. It's so good.
So I'm looking at the picture right now, and I'm not planning to have Taco Bell for dinner tonight. But after looking at this picture, I think I might want Taco Bell. This does look amazing. It looks absolutely amazing.
All right, I'm really curious to hear why you like this one so much.
I decided that my goal in life is to make sure that whoever I marry talks about me how you talk about Taco Bell.
I mean, that's fair. That's a very high. I don't know if Stroz talks about you that way. I'm just saying.
I don't think so. He won't even watch Friday Night Lights for me, but he'll watch Gossip Girl for you. So I don't think so. And I also just needed to know, are we still obsessed with Taco Bell? Have there been menu changes that we need to talk about?
That's an interesting question. Are we still obsessed? So I live in Texas now, specifically Houston, where there's lots of great food. So it's hard to be as into Taco Bell.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we love Taco Bell. We love cheese, and Taco Bell has lots of cheese. Stroz, I don't know if I've ever shared this on an episode, or on a show. I guess Alyssa would maybe know better than you would. Have I ever shared the story about when I was back in my early days of drinking? Probably the third or fourth time I'd ever been drunk in my life. And someone said something about Taco Bell removing Baja Blast.
No, I don't think you've ever brought this up.
So I was at a party where I knew the host and the girl I was with at the time. That's it. I didn't know anybody else. And at the time, Fireball was my drink of choice, and I don't have any idea how I drank as much as I did. I didn't even realize I was drunk until one moment someone said, Taco Bell's getting rid of the Baja Blast, and I thought I was going to cry. And I realized in the middle of getting upset about it, I was like, hold up. What is going on here? And I looked at how much Fireball I had, and it turned out I accidentally got drunk.
I love how you're an emotional drunk.
Anyway.
I'm not normally an emotional drunk. I'm normally a very happy drunk. But I have a passionate love for Taco Bell, and you can't take that away from me.
That's great. It's funny because I'm telling you, you talk about Taco Bell better than most people talk about their families, their friends, and their significant others. I was re-listening to a bunch of them, and first off, I just died listening to it the whole time.
Did you hear me talk about Matthew Stafford?
Pull up, yeah.
I believe that was last week, 2 weeks ago, but very similarly.
It's funny because after that episode, she ended up messaging me, and she was like, he actually loves Matt Stafford. He loves him. He loves him almost as much as he loves Taco Bell.
Important note, I love a lot of things, okay? Can't take that away from me either. Just so you know.
1A Taco Bell, 1B Matt Stafford.
1C Father. Before we get on to the last one, the only thing you need to know, Alyssa, is that if Stroz fights me regularly talking about food. He does not like how much we talk about food.
Okay, you guys haven't talked about food in a while though, actually, which was one of the things I was gonna bring up, because when I was re-listening to your first 8 or 9 that you guys did originally, middle segments for 85% food. Mostly pizza, whether cold pizza is disrespectful or not, and Taco Bell. I feel like we're
okay. This segment's gonna go on forever because I do need to mention, I just had it yesterday. There is one pizza in the world that is better cold than reheated, and I have it in my fridge right now. It's called Nani's Pizza. I don't know anything about it, but it's just so much better cold, and I've never had another pizza that way. But yes, Stroz doesn't like when we talk about food, and every time I suggest we talk about food, he acts like we did it too recently.
No, the last time I think was when you were trying to figure out a cheat meal, and Adam, the king of a sweet tooth, who eats all the food, couldn't even give you anything. And then you resulted in Olive Garden, which, let's get real, that's a terrible choice.
Chill out. Olive Garden's great. All right.
Boil some noodles and open a can of pasta sauce at home. It's the same thing.
No, I make my own Alfredo sauce, and I still enjoy some Olive Garden.
Oh my God, weird.
All right. Number one moment, and I told you, I took issue with this initially, then I re-listened, thought it was great. Episode 5. We are going way back. I was literally a different person during this episode. Stroz tells the story of getting shot in the leg.
is I've realized I love sports, man. I do. I want them to win. I want my teams to win. It's not worth a gunshot to the leg. It's just not.
It's not that bad.
Oh, God.
It's not that bad, honestly.
And context here. When I texted Stroz about the idea of this, Stroz, tell them what you said.
I said, I'd take another one.
Another one.
For a Michigan natty, for sure.
This man has been shot in the leg already. Stroz, we're going to get into that. I don't want to get too deep into that. It's not that bad.
It's not.
You know, I guess, do we need to jump into that right away? I feels like you know what, Stroz? I want to ask the question, would you take the shot to the leg for any of your favorite team's championships? But I feel like I can't leave this hanging here. This idea that Stroz has been shot in the leg before. Please, Stroz, please enlighten me. Why? How? Like, give me the story.
Oh, well, I don't really know the why. I do know the why. And I do understand.
There was just a gunshot. Like, I don't really know. I don't know where it came from.
It was a messed up situation. I was at a local bar, and
now you don't put the name out there, because you don't want to. Okay, I see how it is.
I was heavily inebriated. Funny thing is, I ended up bartending at this bar years later. So,
oh my god,
whatever. Look, man, no limit soldier. I'm not afraid of anything.
All right, I really, when I read that one, I was disappointed you had it so high. I don't know, like, we had a different dynamic in the beginning of the show. I think, like, we didn't really know each other yet, but it felt like we did, and now we actually do. And it's weird how that's changed things. I'm curious, Alyssa, why did you like this story in this segment?
This was one of the ones that specifically I just, like, haven't forgotten about, but I feel like it's for a couple reasons. So when I started listening to the podcast, I feel like I'm the same because Adam and I didn't know each other super well. So I was getting to know him, obviously, through, like...
You were listening to the podcast when you didn't know each other well?
Not super well, yeah.
That's literally insane. Was this your choice, or did he push you to listen?
No, I think he just sent me one day, and so I listened to it, and then I just kept listening.
That's
never went back.
Beyond wild. Was this like your version of cyber stalking somebody?
I mean, maybe. I guess.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's just crazy to me. As somebody who like, I don't know that my closest friends have ever listened to a single episode of anything I've done. Like, I do shows in Houston or in Grand Rapids when I was there. Like, I host shows and have trouble getting people listening. We record something and put it on the internet and nobody listens, and you're out here listening to basically a stranger's podcast.
So, okay, I will clear it up, though. We had known each other from the gym for, like, 2 years?
2 years, yeah, about 2 years.
But, like, we had never hung out outside of the gym. You know, we only had conversations, like, when I was at the gym. It wasn't like he was somebody who I knew a ton about. So when I was listening to the first few of them, I feel like it kind of helps me get an idea of who he was, which is weird because those are when he's his douchiest. So
I was going to say, apparently she has a type because next thing you know, she's like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, no, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Anyways, why did you like this episode?
So a couple things. It still gets brought up to this day that he got shot in the leg over some random broad. First of all, like, it is a common discussion between me, Adam, and his sister. And I wish we had a picture of her because Adam.
Okay, hold on. Pause. So it is because of my sister. During quarantine, we hosted quite a bit, and my sister would come over, and my sister,
you've never, by the way, but continue.
Right? Yeah, for sure. Broke all the rules. My sister was like, "Have you ever seen this girl?" And my sister went to her Facebook, found like the worst picture of her. She's not like obviously she's not all that attractive.
I saw a lot of photos. None of them were good.
Finds the worst picture of her, like the worst eyebrows you've ever seen, right? And shows her this picture, and she's like, "You got shot over that?" And I was like, "I was drunk. I was at a different time, different place." Okay, and then like we have this back and forth about it. And now it's become a thing in our relationship where it's like, hey, would you get shot over those eyebrows?
That's great. That's amazing.
Every time. We'll be like out to eat. We'll be at the gym, whatever. We'll just be watching TV and I'd be like, Adam, you'd for sure get shot over those eyebrows. Like, absolutely. These things were terrible. This girl also ended up being like a crazy person. She apparently like beat this person up like to a pulp at Belle Isle and just left her
She
there.
killed a girl, yeah.
Well, I mean, her boyfriend shot Stroz, so it's a pretty good sign.
Yeah. Good. Yes. No. So, but I remember like listening to it and I was like, holy shit, this guy has an interesting past. Like, who gets shot over anybody, period. And I saw the picture and now it's just a thing. So it gets brought up quite often. And I was re-listening to it and I was just dying. I thought it was so funny.
Well, I'm really glad that our show helped you learn somehow that Stroz was a good guy, because that's not what I gather from it.
So this is what... There's been so much growth. This is what we'll just pretend like it is. Listening to the old shows and then now spending the amount of time that I have with him. I'm like, all right, this man has grown up. He's no longer the person that gets shot in the leg for making out with a random girl while having a girlfriend that isn't that girl. He's no longer that person. He's this person. And there we have it.
Congratulations, Stroz, for being a decent human being.
Way to be an adult, babe.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Alyssa. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on here, babe.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun.
It was a good time. I'm really glad we did that.
I feel like I was quiet through most of it because I felt like it was a good. It was good to get her perspective and for you to ask the questions that you asked it, because they were very poignant questions. And
that was the practice squad
answers.
with B and Alyssa. I think you said like 7 words, but it's okay. That's what she was there for.
The worst part is I feel like I knew most of those answers because I was like, hey, I need you to give me your list of segments that you want so I can kind of put them in the rundown. So like I kind of feel like I've already the newness or the intrigue isn't necessarily there for me, because this has been like pulling teeth from an alligator trying to get her to do this, because she definitely did not want to do it because she was very, very, very
Can I say, because we are going to move on. I've had a billion different people. Like I've answered a million calls. I've had a million guests. I've done a ton of different stuff. And I don't know if it's because we're recording or what. She doesn't come through as somebody who's nervous. Like, no, people will call the radio station and sound like they're literally crying while they're talking to you. And I thought it was totally fine, and no one will listen to it, so we're good.
Yeah, no, she's a professional, man. Like, I don't get it. She was very calm, very collected. Did a really good job of explaining herself and expressing herself. I don't know what the hell she's nervous about.
All right, so this is my third regime with the Detroit Lions, and I think you're going to enjoy where I rank them. But no matter how long you've been watching the Lions, I'm curious to know, where does this regime rank in terms of your belief in them going into year one? Basically, we've seen nothing. You get to read about who these guys are. You get to hear about their philosophies, see the staffs they hire. That's all we know. Nothing on the field. Stroz, my regimes and my belief in them has very little to do with, like, if you know how it's tough to judge players through eras? Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same in terms of me judging regimes. So you have the Schwartz and Mayhew era, where I was in high school when they were hired. I watched them win more games each year for the first 3 years. But going in, I listened to Jim Schwartz talk, and I was all in. This is the regime that changes things. I don't care that Martin Mayhew's part of the Millen regime. Like, he hired Jim Schwartz, and Jim Schwartz sounds awesome. Then we get into Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. I absolutely had some concerns about Bob Quinn, but I wasn't all out on a Patriots GM. Matt Patricia was my guy, because there was one thing there that I still stand by. They weren't super heavy on the multiple defense thing until around the time he got there, meaning they weren't a 3-4 or a 4-3. They were whatever the hell made sense. So I thought he had something to do with that. Now I look back and know that was bullshit. But I was less confident in that regime than the Schwartz-Mayhew regime, but I was still somewhat confident heading into this regime. When you era adjust, I like this regime quite a bit. But now at 27 years old, I don't think I'm ever going to get excited for a GM coach combo before their first year. I don't think I can do it. They're my last. They're the lowest for me.
See, I totally get what you're saying. And you don't know anything about anybody right now. Because I'll be honest with you. I was excited when Bob Quinn came in. I was excited when he brought Matt Patricia in. I was excited about that. I thought it was going to work out. I was like, all right, this is going to pay dividends. It's going to pay off. This is going to work. I liked Jim Schwartz. I thought Jim Schwartz was a guy who, I liked the fire. I liked the edge. I liked the way he conducted himself and the way he carried himself. And for a while it worked. And then it just kind of grew tired and it didn't work anymore. And, we've done our rewatch, and we both agree Martin Mayhew, to an extent, kind of knew what he was doing.
The fact that he's getting a second look as a GM says a lot. Like,
it does.
Guys don't get second looks as GM, and he is in Washington.
And it's weird because I think I'm in a different boat than you, because I've been through Wayne Fonts, I've been through Bobby Ross, I've been through Gary Moeller, I've been through Marty Morningweg, I've been through Mooch. I've been through Marinelli. I've been through all these guys.
Mariucci and Marinelli. I just wasn't like I wasn't old enough to really have critical thinking skills when it came to those guys.
No, for sure. Like I remember Wayne Fonts, and I remember Bobby Ross losing it at the podium. I briefly remember Gary Moeller, but my cognitive skills started to pick up with Marty Morningweg, Steve Mariucci, and then basically from there. I'm probably more excited for this regime because of the move that they were able to conduct with Matt Stafford. So before anything has even been done, before any games have been played, before any draft, I'm probably more excited for this regime because of how they were able to conduct themselves with moving on from Matt Stafford. That's what gives me hope that this regime understands what it's doing. If you listen to everybody around the league right now, if you're talking about trading for a quarterback or working on some type of a quarterback deal, everybody wants what is now deemed the Matt Stafford deal, which I think is high praise for your general manager and for your front office. And that's why I'm most excited about this incarnation of the Detroit Lions.
So I suspected you were going to be the opposite of me, and it's because you work from an emotional place when we talk about a lot of these things, and I work from more of a logical place. And it's tough. Like, even I have, like, I look at this as a whole, and for me, it's the Stafford trade, and it's the what's his name hiring the Browns and Chiefs guy, John Dorsey.
John Dorsey, yeah.
It's those two things that gives me faith in this regime, and a part of me goes, "Am I more excited than ever?" Because I am very excited about those things, but I think like the logic part of me goes, "No." Because you were confident that Jim Schwartz and Martin Mayhew were the guy. And Matt Patricia was my coach. And in the last 3 years, I've gotten to a place where like even Eric Bieniemy, I probably wouldn't have celebrated as much as I celebrated Matt Patricia. And I'm all in on Chiefs guys. I don't know. I guess what I would say is it's fair to be more excited about this group. But I also think that, I guess in a way I'm saying you shouldn't be able to rank these guys at all. You should almost go in and be like, we'll see. We have literally nothing to work with ever.
Mm-hmm. No, and you wouldn't be wrong. I mean, this is something that we kind of ran into where we were constantly butting our heads when we're putting shows together. You don't know anything about GMs. You don't know anything about these guys. You don't know really what they've done or what they've accomplished or even how they feel about certain things. Because when you learn how a general manager thinks or how they feel about any type of prospects, it almost tips their hand as to how the organization is going to conduct itself. And these are all things in the NFL that have now become very, very secretive. So you tend to know more about your head coaches because they're out in the front. They're always answering questions. They're the guy who's always accessible to the media. Your general manager is usually just a shadowy figure in the back. And when they strike and they hit it, you know. And when they miss and they blunder, you know. And then those things are kind of what gets attached to them like pelts. So you really don't know anything about your general managers. Like I said, I can kind of go based.
There's a ton of early reaction to coaches normally.
All the time. Because it's mostly, again, how they conduct themselves in the pressers, who they're hiring for their staffs, and then what they're doing on game day. You know, you get to see your head coach at least 16 weeks out of the year, and then if you want to factor in your preseason. So if you factor in preseason, you're seeing them at least 20 weeks out of the year. Answer questions, field questions, and just be out there front and center. You are the face of the organization.
I try to compare Jim Schwartz hiring to Dan Campbell hiring because, again, Jim Schwartz hiring was the first one where I really started thinking about the Lions critically. And in a way, I want to be clear. They're very, very different. Jim Schwartz was a defensive coordinator of a great defense. But what sold me on Jim Schwartz wasn't necessarily being the coordinator of a great defense. What sold me on Schwartz was he was fiery. And that's really not any different than Dan Campbell. And for me, him being fiery like he's probably more fiery than Jim Schwartz. I predicted the Lions are going to be one of the most penalized teams consistently under him. And maybe I'm wrong. That's the read I get. It was the same case with Jim Schwartz, though. He was very often a highly penalized team. And with Jim Schwartz, I was excited about that. Not anticipating highly penalized, but just the energy. And when Dan Campbell, I kind of go, it's fun. It's kind of what you were saying about Stafford. He's got a personality. Dan Campbell has showed us the personality, and I enjoy that, but it has zero impact on the way that I feel about him as a coach.
Yeah, you're right, because I'm kind of the same way, right? Like, as a person, I would love to have a beer with that guy. As a head coach, I don't know if I want you drawing up any X's and O's yet. I don't know anything about you. And I think that's kind of where you come in with your logical state of mind. And you're like, we know nothing about these guys. We don't know how they're going to play. We don't know what they're going to actually do to make this team any better. When it comes to my excitement, it is purely based off of what I believe this front office can squeeze out of this team. It comes from bringing in a guy like John Dorsey. It comes from what Brad Holmes has been able to do in Los Angeles. It comes from Brad Holmes being able to conduct a trade and, depending on who you talk to, possibly fleece the Rams. It comes from Brad Holmes being able to basically drive that market up, or let the market drive itself up and then take advantage and strike while the iron's hot. And when you hear other people around the league talk about, hey, Carson Wentz, if Philadelphia is looking for, like I said earlier, what's deemed the Matt Stafford deal, or hey, the Colts are in on this guy, but it's a little bit too high. It's not like Matt Stafford. That's basically a tip of the cap to that front office and what they were able to do. And really and truly, man, that is the only thing that gets me excited, and it is the only thing that I can hang my hat on to say, hey, this organization's going in the right direction. They're doing things the right way. So I do have a quick question for you. There was I don't know if you read The Athletic at all.
I used to. I canceled my subscription. I might get it back, but I don't currently have it.
I used to. Me too. I was same deal. I had a subscription. I ended up canceling it. One of their beat writers ended up doing a mock, and he's got the Lions trading with Washington. So moving from 7 down to 19, they pick up an extra 3rd round pick, and they pick up next year's first.
We've talked about it before. I'm in for anything that gets you next year's first. If you get 2 firsts out of it, I don't have interest in trading back if you're not getting another first, because I think being at the top of the first round has its own different value. These are guys who are supposed to be impact players right away.
So if they were able to do something like that in this draft, how does that then, and again, this is a hypothetical, how does that make you feel about this front office and this organization?
So I guess here's what's tough, because when I thought of the question, I honestly didn't think about the fact that they've already made the major move of trading Stafford. Mm-hmm. My thought process was, how did you feel about them going in before we really saw them do anything? Mm-hmm. Because the Stafford trade was big. And I don't know where John Dorsey counts as, if he counts as like a move they made, or if he counts as, part of the regime. But like, those two things gave me so much more confidence. Yeah, if you added, so I don't think there's a single pick they could make in the first round. So some sort of like fleecing the Jags to take Trevor Lawrence, and I mean fleecing, because if you do it aggressively, like, there's still risk. I don't know if there's a player they could take where it would make me feel way better about this regime. But yeah, if you could get 2 firsts plus, it would add to it. I think I'm always going to have, going back to earlier on the show again, with Stafford, and you felt like he opened up. I think I'm always going to be guarded about every regime from here on out until I see them do something. So yes, it would make me feel better, but I don't know if it would. I still think they'd finish 3rd. Now, what I'm curious to ask you, maybe you answered this, but I'm not sure you did. Concrete, like every regime you've watched, where does this one rank? Right here, right now, as the others did before the season started. Was it number 1? Because you almost talk about it like it is.
I think the way I feel about it, it's number 1. I'm trying to remember.
Did you hate the Patricia hire?
No, I thought it was the right hire.
Well, what I'm curious is, was the last one number 1 before this? Are you the exact opposite of me? Does every regime get you more excited than the last?
No, I with Patricia, I wasn't 100%. Like, I thought he was the right hire, but I wasn't 100% sold on him, if that makes any sense. There were a couple different coaching options available for them. It was like when Jim Caldwell was hired. I did not like the Jim Caldwell hire. He was obviously
He's also like in the middle of a regime.
Right. But he was obviously the best candidate, or he was the best hire for this team at that time. Now, Matt Patricia, on the other hand, I was on board with it, but it wasn't my 100%. I was like, here's the thing. When you get a guy from New England, you kind of got to watch. And like, we could all read the writing on the wall when it came to what Bob Quinn wanted to do. He was looking for any chance he could to move on from Jim Caldwell. And then he went out and he grabbed Matt Patricia. And they did really zero searching for anybody else. Like, you could have had Vrabel. And I don't know if Vrabel would have been, if he would have been able to have the same success here that he's having in Tennessee. But out of the two, obviously Vrabel was the right selection, right? Or would have been, should have been the right selection.
It's hard to argue in any case that Patricia was the right one.
Exactly. So I feel like this regime right now, I'm more on board than I was with Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. And with Dan Campbell getting hired, Dan Campbell was a guy who I was kind of like, not really this guy. Like, I don't really want this guy because he has zero experience. But I get it, right? Like, I kind of got it because they're going with a different mindset. And it's supposed to be all inclusive, and it's supposed to be a guy who can. And I like when your head coach is the guy who can handle all the egos in the room. And I like when your head coach is the guy who can basically make
the culture.
Can make everybody else better. And all he has to do is have final say, right? He's got veto power over everything. Any play that's coming into his headset, he's got veto power, and he knows what he wants to run. And that's all I need your head coach to do. Let the X's and O's get figured out by your coordinators. That's why you're paying them. Let them do their job. You handle everything else.
All right.
You're supposed to be the overseer of it all. And, you find something like, I don't know, you're running a halfback dive, and all of a sudden you realize that the defensive front is showing something. You're like, you know what? Let's line up in a halfback dive, but let's do a sweep. It'll probably work. And next thing you know, you pick up 25 yards and score a touchdown. That's what I want my coach to do.
We'll wrap this one on that. Thanks again to